Hey guys, what's up? This is Casey. This is Coach Tom. This is Shot Science Overtime number 89. What we typically do is we start off the show by talking about a topic that we think is going to help you guys develop your game and make you better basketball players. And then after we're done with that, we're going to jump into answering all of your questions, or at least as many as we can get to. So what you want to do right now is make sure that you are sending those questions over to us. We typically like to check Twitter, but first, so tweet at us. We are at Shot Science, and if you have a basketball question, just send it over. You can also try reaching us on Facebook, on our Facebook page, and you can also try to reach us on Google Plus. And we are Shot Science on all those places. So just shoot us your questions, and we will also try to check as many in the chat on YouTube as we possibly can as well. So start sending those over, and if you could, reach out to your family, friends, tell them to join the chat. And it helps us grow, but it also will help them become better basketball players, and they will thank you for it. And it also helps us get cool guests on. We've had NBA players, we've had some college coaches, and people that help get kids into college programs and stuff. So if you could, go out and help us out. And if you're watching the recording, thanks for watching the recording. But you can catch us here every Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific time. And we're here to answer your questions. Okay, so today's topic is how to make shots when you're tired. A lot of times you get deep into the fourth quarter, the game is on the line, and things are looking a little hairy, and you need to make sure that you're able to hit those shots when the ball is in your hands. And that could be a layup, that could be a three ball, that could be free throws. Usually it's free throws when it really, the pressure's really on. So one of the things that we want to talk about today is how to make those shots when you're just gassed because you've been playing the whole game. So What are some thoughts that you have on that one?
Well, probably the most important thought that comes to my mind is having yourself in really good condition. Oftentimes players think they're in really good condition, and in reality, they're not. They resist training when the coach is really trying to get them to go hard and develop that conditioning, so they'll have the stamina late in the game. And you really are kind of cheating yourself and cheating the team if you do that. And so the thing that really will help is getting yourself in really good condition so that fatigue is not going to be a real problem at the end of the game. Fatigue oftentimes is a real problem for all players. And when you get to the line, one of the first things to do is to try and relax. When we go to the line when we're really fatigued, oftentimes we're a little tight too because we can't catch our breath. Take the time to take 2 or 3 really deep breaths when you get there and just try to relax. And that really helps a lot. But conditioning is the key, no question.
Yeah, I mean, for me, people think that there's some trick. Oh, you got to do this when you're tired, or you got to get more legs, or what. I mean, that's not the key at all. I mean, what you want to always do when you're trying to develop skills for basketball is put yourself in that position so that when you step out on the floor, it's not the first time. You've actually done that before. And that's what you do in practice is, the reason that you're practicing is to actually get yourself to the point where everything just kind of happens and feels like it should, and you don't feel like you're out of place. We are big proponents of the game speed, game intensity practice stuff. So, I mean, you do work on developing your skills and you diligently work on that stuff, but you also need to make sure that you're not just throwing that into casual shoot-arounds or workouts and stuff, but you're actually stepping into these situations that you create yourself in your practice that are game intensity. So that means that you're going at full speed that you would in a game. You're maybe even going up against a defender, real or one that you imagine, and you're just putting yourself mentally into that space, because you can go through all the motions that you want, but if you have not been there and been prepared for when you actually step into that situation in a game, you're probably going to have a hard time, because nobody is good at anything the first time that they do it.
Yeah.
So what we typically tell people to do, and this is especially true of free throw shooting. Most people, when they step to the free throw line in the last part of the fourth quarter, you can tell that they are having a hard time. And that's when mechanics and fundamentals and all that stuff start to break down. And, what we say is when you're practicing, you should be conditioning yourself while working on your skills. So when a lot of people, they'll come, and we say this almost every week. A lot of people come into the gym or wherever, and they shoot all their free throws. Their free throw practice is the very beginning. They think of it as a warm up. It's kind of a laid back, casual thing to get the blood flowing. And you're just sitting there and you do all of your free throw work in the very beginning, and then you get into your real workouts. Well, if you think about how that translates to the game, you don't get to shoot all your free throws at the very beginning of the game.
Right.
So what you should be doing is you should be pushing yourself and hitting all the little elements of your game that you can during, moments of conditioning, and, skill work and stuff like that. So you should be doing, kind of like interval training, like ladder drills or suicides, and put the free throws in intervals between that too.
Right.
So that after you've run 2 suicides, you're going to go and step to the line and shoot 10 free throws. So you've actually been there before, right?
Yep. One of the things that we do in practice, every coach does, is to really make you work really hard to fatigue you and then take and go to the free throw line. That's really a key part of any part of the game. When you stop and think about how many free throws a team shoots during the course of a game, it probably averages somewhere around 15 to 20 free throws per game, depending on how the game flows. And so if you can hit a high percentage of that because you're prepared physically and mentally to do that, then you're going to be much more successful. So that's really important for us to learn how to do that. And it's all done by first fatiguing yourself where you really feel like you're kind of really, what's the word I'm searching for? Really exhausted, and you go to the line, and now you take those few deep breaths, get yourself relaxed, and then go ahead and shoot the basketball.
But I mean, that's just talking about free throws. That means anything, though.
Yeah, that's true about any of them. Yes.
I'm sure you guys have probably watched on TV or maybe even on YouTube where you watch these elite guys like Ray Allen or LeBron James or Dwayne Wade or Tony Parker, whoever it is. You see them doing their workouts and stuff, and they are just dripping sweat, bent over at the waist, hands on their knees. They have just put everything into it. And you can see that those are the guys that get to the elite level. They have pushed themselves to the point where they are conditioned, they are skilled deep into their fatigue, and they are just prepared. The guys that you might watch, at the YMCA or out on the playground or whatever, that are just casually shooting around, those guys don't make it to the next level. They are not putting in the work to be able to level up. Right. And so if you guys want to level up, I mean, you really need to approach your practice with conditioning in mind. And, those guys are always pushing themselves to do that. And, Kobe's another one too. But you really have to insert the skill development into the conditioning of whatever you're doing.
It's not fun to do either. Most of us don't like to be just totally exhausted. But that's really what you have to do to be able to prepare yourself for any kind of shooting, like Casey mentioned a while ago. It's not just about free throws, but it's any kind of shooting. And we got to hit a tough shot at the end of the game, and we're kind of exhausted. We've got to be able to do that. And so that comes just through exposing yourself in practice into those situations as well.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we should have named this How to Be Clutch or something like that, because the guys that are able to hit those shots at the very end of the game, the ones that really kind of seem to make the difference and win the game, the Michael Jordans, the Kobe Bryants, the, whoever, they are the ones that have put in that work. And you'll see, the video of them actually practicing, and they're just totally gassed. Yeah. And if you want to be that guy or girl, and you need to be the person that has already been in that situation, because most people, I can tell you, probably are not putting in that kind of work.
No.
And if you're the person that's doing that, you will dominate deep into a game.
Yeah.
Because people cannot keep up with you. I mean, you're turning on the gas when everybody's, kind of tailing off. And, it really does come down to practice and conditioning.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess, and, here's another thing to check out too, is that, a few months ago we had on Dennis Stanton, who is a great shooter. He's played in college, he played overseas, and he's one of those guys that, you know, he shoots and he makes, you know, everything, you know, from right at the basket to half court. He makes everything. But he has a really great shooting workout that incorporates all of this stuff, including form shooting, spin shooting, game speed, game intensity, plus free throws and conditioning, all of that stuff, all into one workout. And you can check that out on his YouTube. It's I think you can just check out Dennis Stanton spin shooting workout, and that should come up. But it's got all of that stuff in there. And if you're trying to make your workouts interesting, I mean, that's one way to do it, is just to incorporate all the stuff in it that you need, so that it's not like a monotonous thing where you're just drilling into yourself by doing, you know, tons of suicides and free throws. I mean, that doesn't sound like fun either, but you know, you do have to push yourself, and if you can make it interesting, that's the way to go. So check out that. Yeah. So I think that's good for today. If you guys have questions about conditioning and stuff like that, just let us know, and we'll try to tackle more stuff. But, you know, one of the things that we really recommend is interval training. You don't need to go out there and do some endurance thing where you're running 5 miles and then shoot free throws or anything, because that doesn't replicate what you would see in an actual basketball game. It's not really that functional for basketball. Basketball is a lot of sprinting and slowing down and you know, all of that back and forth and high intensity, low intensity. And so that's what interval training is just periods of high intensity and low intensity. So if you can do sprints, walk back to the starting line. A lot of times if you see a track, one of the things people do for interval training is they sprint the straights and walk the curves. So you know, or jog, whatever you want to do. So you just put it all into the sprints, and you just kind of take it easy on the curves, and then you know, you just keep doing that repeatedly. But doing that kind of stuff is really going to translate better to basketball than just some endurance thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So enough on that. If you guys are wanting your question answered, now is the time to send them to us. You know, tweet at us at Shot Science, and we will try to get to as many tweets as we possibly can. We're going to also be on Facebook, Google Plus, and in the YouTube chat. So if you want to hit us up there, we will try to get to as many as possible. If you could, go out there and ask your friends and family to join, because that helps us to continue to do the shows and also get great people on to you know, talk to you guys. So let's jump into questions. I think we have some over here in the chat. This one is from Rebound King. He says, "Hey, coach, how do I motivate my team to go 110% in games and not get intimidated by the other teams?"
Well, you know, one of the things that occurs to me on that one right off is the fact that you set an example for everybody else to follow. Oftentimes what happens is that there just needs to be a leader of the group. You know, you talk in terms of what do they call it? Type A personalities, those who are going to actually be the leaders in the group. Well, you should be one of those leaders. And if you really are putting yourself out 110%, most of them will follow. And, you know, one of the things that I have found over years of coaching is there are an awful lot of players who don't know really how to give 110%. They'd like to, but they're just not sure how to do it. And so they have to kind of be exposed to what effort is really all about. But just being a leader in that regard probably will help an awful lot. Now, I'm supposing here that this young person is called Rebound King. I'm not sure whether he's a player or a coach, but it doesn't make any difference. If you're a player, set the bar for everybody else just because of how you play. And what you're going to find is pretty soon they're going to start to step up with you as well.
Yeah. Okay. Next question is from Shane Thomas, who is at It's a Thomas Thing on Twitter. He says, "How important is the position of the chest in the jump shot?"
The position of the chest.
I think when you take little portions of things like that, I don't think that's the best thing to do. You have to kind of look at it as a whole. The chest is, you know, kind of part of the body or the torso. And for us, you know, we like to have an emphasis towards the shooting side. So your chest is going to be turned a little bit, but it's more about like the shoulder position, because that's where the ball is coming into play. So, you know, you want to turn your body a little bit like that. Your chest, obviously, you don't want to be falling back or falling forward. You know, you just want to make sure that you are relaxed as you go up into the shot. Your chest isn't necessarily doing all that much. No. It's just part of the whole. I don't know if you mean like getting your chest out, or you just don't want to create tension. So you don't want any kind of super activation going on with your muscles when you do that. So for us, we just like to keep it as streamlined and efficient as possible. You just have that slight emphasis towards the shooting side, and try to keep everything relaxed, because that's how you relax your muscles. You just have to work on it and send that message from your brain to relax. A lot of people are saying things like you have to move your arm like this or legs like this to relieve tension. That's not how you relieve tension. That's activating another muscle group to try to, that's just complicating things, and complexity will kill your accuracy. So if you're able to just send the message to your brain to not have tension in your body, then that's really what you want to do. Okay, so let's go to another question. This one is from Rubisco in the chat, who says, I feel horrible when I don't get a shot in when I'm completely open. Do you have any tips on how I could have a fairly consistent shot when I'm open? I'm not talking about 3-pointers. I'm talking about the mid or long twos inside the perimeter.
Hey, it just really comes down to spending an awful lot of time practicing those shots.
And the other thing is too, is that you're not going to hit everything.
No, you're not. I had a student come a couple of weeks ago, and he was a little distraught. He was a younger guy, he's in the 7th grade, and he was a little distraught, and he almost was in tears. And his mother was there, and I said, well, what's going on? What's happening? And she says, well, he's really kind of feeling that his shot isn't any good because he's not hitting enough shots. So we had that discussion. Well, how many shots do you think you should make? And let's say that you're shooting 10 shots. How many of those do you figure you should take, or that you should make? And I'm talking about those from mid-range out to maybe the 3-point line. Well, I think I should hit 50 or 60% of the shots. Well, that's not real. If you're a guy like Casey was describing a while ago, who has just uncanny ability to shoot the basketball, that's one thing, but most of us aren't like that. And what you can expect in a game situation, because of defense, fatigue, and a number of other factors, is that you're probably not going to shoot a real high percentage. And that typically is going to round out somewhere in that, let's say 36 to 42%. And it will go down a little bit as you are moving away from the basket. But that means that you're probably going to miss 6 out of 10 shots. Now, certainly nobody is looking to do that, but just the reality of it in the course of a game, that's probably how it's going to shake up.
My feeling is that as a player, you should be working on developing your skills as much as possible in practice. And then when you get into a game, you just shoot. You can't worry about what happened. If you miss the shot, hey, that happens. You just have to come down the next time and take the shot and not worry about what happened last time or next time or whatever. You have to be very present. And you should be putting all of your concern into making shots and working on your stuff or your mechanics while you're in practice. When you're in a game, it should be like you're just thinking shot, make, whatever.
Yeah.
And if you miss it, hey, you're going to miss a ton of shots when you play basketball. It's just the way it is. You're probably going to miss at least half no matter what you do. And the thing to keep in mind is that your shooting average is over many games, not one game. So if you have a crappy game where you're shooting 20% or something like that from the field, that's totally fine, because the next game you might shoot 70 or 80 and have some just freakish Rain Man moment, and you'll be good to go, and that averages out. So the thing about it is you just got to keep shooting and work on your game in practice. If you haven't put in the work in practice, then you're not going to get the results in the game.
There's another point that we like to emphasize as well as in shooting, and that is making sure that you do a lot of game speed shooting, meaning that if you're shooting off the dribble, that it is a hard dribble, pull up and shoot. And just everything that you do with your shooting wants to be focused on how the situation would be in a game. And fatiguing yourself helps a lot there as well. Because then we have to shoot when we're tired as well as any other time. And so game speed shooting is just, you cannot do it without have game speed shooting.
Okay, here's one from Willie Will, who is at King Will 14 on Twitter. He says, as a high school freshman coach, should I try to change some guy's shooting form to be more effective?
As a freshman coach, yes, I would. but I wouldn't do it during the season. Typically, when somebody is trying to learn new stroke mechanics, it usually takes them 3 or 4 weeks to be able to become halfway effective with it. If there's just a little thing that you see that might help them, I would go ahead and tinker with that. But the full stroke, I would not really look at until after the season is over, and then you have time to really work with them. But, maybe if they're shooting with the elbow out too far, then I would take and correct them and just remind them and remind them and remind them constantly that they got to get that elbow in. If it's just a whole shot, then that's something for after the season's over or during the summertime.
Yeah. Okay. Here's one from So Flaco Loco, who says, "What's better in terms of dribbling, speed or ball handling?"
Well,
I think it's there. You can't put a premium on either of them.
No.
I mean, you have to be able to do both.
Exactly.
So what? I mean, are you asking because you want to emphasize one thing more than the other in your practice? I mean, that's not what to do.
The most important thing to remember about ball handling is this. It's about taking care of the basketball and making it do what you want it to do when you need to do it. Everybody goes into a lot of really kind of uncanny little dribbling drills to try and improve the dribbling, and it does. But, I use some pretty basic stuff, and with the emphasis totally on taking care of making the ball do what you want it to do when you want that to happen. Because that's really where it all is. It's controlling the basketball in all situations, just controlling the dribble in all situations.
Yeah, and the name of the game is making baskets, and you should have your dribbling be to the level that it will help you get the baskets.
Well, and certainly speed in dribbling is really important. There's no question about that. But I don't think it's the most important thing. I think ball control is the key to all dribbling.
Okay, this one is from RC Modzit in the chat, who says, "How do I make shots under pressure, whether in the paint or on the perimeter?" Okay, that's one of those things that kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, but it all happens in practice where you are working on being in that situation before. So you are working on, I guess, making shots in the paint and on the perimeter diligently. You're working on your mechanics, you're doing all the work to make sure that's all dialed in, and then you have to put yourself in actual game situations where you're going up against defenders and playing at the speed and pace of an actual game.
Right.
And that will help prepare you for when you actually get into a game and you have to make shots under pressure. If you're just going through and you're making you're practicing, you're not shooting with anybody that's kind of going to be putting any pressure on you, then when you step into a game and you see that, you're going to freak out.
Yeah.
So you need to have that game intensity, game speed, game situation type practice, as well as your diligent kind of broken down, slowed down, dialing in practice.
Right.
And the other thing I would say is that you have to have a mentality too, and you probably will develop that if you actually do the game and situation practice where that stuff doesn't intimidate you or bother you. It will at first, but after a while you'll be fine.
Well, another thing is really important when you're working on your shooting too, and you have a situation where there's pressure. What kind of pressure is that? Is it the fact that the defender is up in your face? Is it because it's just a high speed execution? Whatever it is, you need to kind of dissect that a little bit and focus on that. In other words, let's say that you think you're open for a shot, but there's somebody there who's pressuring you, and you go ahead and shoot it anyway. That's not a smart thing to do, because number one, you didn't have that shot to begin with because they were pressuring you. They were in your face. So you need to learn what maybe you can do. Maybe it's a little up fake and one dribble, and now you get a look at the basket that doesn't have that pressure. And so you kind of need to learn how to utilize what's going on and figure it out so that you can make decisions on what you're going to do to relieve that pressure. And that's really important. Whether it's in the perimeter, on the perimeter, or in the paint, either one doesn't make any difference.
All right, here's one from Graham Hall, who says, "Hey, Coach, I find myself thinking too much when playing a game. Any tips?"
Quit thinking.
Well, here's what I would say. It starts in practice again. If you are not confident in your skills, if you haven't put yourself in those game situations before, you haven't had the experience, then you're not going to be able to think about anything more than your performance, what you should be doing next. I mean, all these things that are running in through your mind, they aren't instinctual. But if you've put in the work beforehand and you've got experience playing, in other things like on the playground or in pickup games or whatever, you will be much better prepared, and you'll start to feel like things are just happening and are more instinctual and reactionary. So you need to kind of get more experience, is what I would say.
Well, and to go along with that, when you are busy thinking, your game is going to be kind of slow. What you want to do is be looking ahead when you play to maybe what is happening or what you think is going to happen, and that really helps you a lot more. But the thinking about things, when you actually do all these different kinds of things, they become pretty much instinctual for you, and you don't really want to think about that very much. You just want to execute. You've got to move against somebody that you just do because you've done that enough that's part of who you are. Your instinctive part of playing. If you have to think about all that stuff, it's going to slow you down, and you're not going to be very effective.
Yeah, put in the work ahead of time,
Yeah.
You'll be good to go. Okay, this one is a special question for you.
Okay.
This is from K Hiller 21, who says, "Hey, coach, was wondering how to get rhythm on a shot. When I shoot my shot and bend my knees, it doesn't align from when I bring my shot up and release my shot, resulting in either an uncomfortable shot breaking off the backboard or really short shot. Any suggestions?"
Well, if you were to take and go and look at our shooting videos, you would find some information there regarding what we think about rhythm. We really believe that the rhythm on your shooting should be created by how you use your feet in preparation for the shot.
Rhythm is all footwork.
Yeah, it has to do so much with footwork. And you're talking here. What were some of the other comments there about that?
They're having when I shoot my shot and bend my knees, it doesn't align for when I bring my shot up and release my shot. Okay, that's a different thing. But
yeah,
let's stick with the rhythm first.
Hang on a second. The rhythm thing is so key in your shooting. And we just feel like the footwork is the major part of that. Now, as far as aligning your shot or aligning your body for the shot, don't worry too much about that. If you've got your lead foot or your shooting foot forward and your shoulder then will be turned into the basket, then that's the alignment that you really want. You want the ball being brought up so that it ends up being in front of your shooting eye. One of the things that happens an awful lot with shooters that kind of screws them up for accuracy is they shoot over here off their ear. And what happens is that's not and it doesn't feel good. And we're not very effective with it either. So what you want to do is just make sure that you get the ball up and above your shooting eye. Now, some people, the younger players, I don't really try to push younger players like 10, 11, 12 years old to shoot with a higher set point, because usually their strength is not too good. And so we tend to align it a little bit underneath the eye, but still in line with the eye.
Yeah. So I would say this, it's definitely exactly what you were saying, but I'll just add a little bit more to the rhythm thing, is that when you're working with the proper footwork for shooting, the stuff that we talked about in our video, the 1-2 stepping into the shot, what happens is that you are taking care of a huge chunk of what you need to do to get into your shot before you even catch the ball or pull it up from the dribble. Yeah. So it's going to make your shot faster. And when people talk about having a quick release and having a quicker shot, this is how you do it. You develop the proper footwork that happens before you even initiate the shot with the ball. And what happens is that you take care of that initial starting of the shot by doing that. And once you do that, you've taken care of all the rhythm. You don't need to do anything else to generate rhythm.
Right.
It all has been taken care of by that footwork. And, when you do that, then, you don't have to do any tricks or anything to get rhythm. You don't have to go up and then down, then up again. The footwork is going to go for you in the initial part, and you can go from low to high, and it makes your shot more efficient. And when we talk about shooting, we are always talking about streamlined, efficient shots where you remove all the unnecessary moving parts, and you just have the mechanics that are going to get the job done and will be the quickest to get things done as well. And, when you're talking about getting the ball aligned and all that stuff, I think that also comes into play when you're talking about having an efficient shot. If you're taking the ball and moving it around before it gets up to the set point, you're going to have problems with your efficiency and repeatability because, you're adding in these extra things that are going to add more motion and things that can go wrong. So if you are efficient, the ball is going to come right up to the set point, and then you're going to go right up into the shot after you've completed the footwork. And, if you have that so that there's no weird things going on or extraneous things, then you will have an efficient shot.
Well, there's another part of this too. I'm just looking here at the note and talking about uncomfortable shot bricking off the backboard. That is an indication to me that probably the shot mechanics aren't really very good. What we really need to do is make sure that we get a nice arc on our shot. And we have videos covering all of this. And so you can check that out. That's really important. And then the other comment that's made there is that you end up shooting an air ball. Air balls are usually the result of a couple different things. Number one, we don't really get the legs into the shot. Oftentimes what we see is that the shot has a two-part to it. The legs extend and there's a short hesitation and then the arms go. And usually the ball tends to be very short of the basket and often flat when we do that. What we want to do is actually start our legs extension on the shot, but before the extension is complete, now the arms are already moving to get the shot going. Go check out our videos on getting arc on the shot and getting legs into the shot. I think those will answer your questions and help you a whole bunch.
Yeah, okay, here's one from Jordy Shore, who says, what's some good drills to develop your weak hand and what's some good post moves? Okay, we have a YouTube channel that's called youtube.com/shotscience, and we have all that stuff there. And we have a video series called How to Develop Your Weak Hand, which will tell you the exact information we would tell you there. And then we also have a post moves series as well. So if you go to, I think it's How to Own the Low Post or something like that, or just type in Shot Science post moves and you'll find a whole list of stuff there. Yeah. So that's what I would tell you to do. Yeah. And let us know how it goes too. Okay, this one is from Sean Walia, who says, hey, coach, any tips on how to shoot consistent free throws when you're tired? I'm a center and I play almost the whole game and I get the line about 5 to 6 times a game, but I can't capitalize them. Thanks. Love the channel. Okay. That we talked about that at the very beginning of the show, but the real key there is, like we said, you have to do your conditioning while you're working on your skill development. So do things like interval training, ladders, suicides, whatever, and then work your free throws into those so that you've actually been in that level of fatigue while you're shooting. Okay, this one is from Big Shactus, who says, what would you say to a person that wants to be a basketball coach in the future? I know that I'm not going to make it as a player, but I still love the game, and I don't want my only contact with the sport to be playing pickup games once a week.
Well, gosh.
I would say play and watch as much basketball as you can.
Yeah, and if there's an opportunity to coach a junior team of some sort, try to get that. And most of all, learn as much as you can about the game. And I don't mean just by playing around in pickup games and stuff like that, but I'm talking about getting into books, going to coaching clinics, learning all about the game and how it all fits together. I think that's really important. And, it's a real satisfying kind of thing to do as well, because you end up teaching individuals how to play this game that you like so much, and they turn out liking it an awful lot as well. In fact, that's probably one of the biggest joys for me in all the years that I've spent with it, is just to all the kids that I've had contact with that were really affected, hopefully positively, about our interactions together. So you get a lot of enjoyment out of it, but learn the game, and you don't learn it just by playing it.
But right now, he's obviously still in that age.
Right. But the thing is that you start finding out more about it by, watching games and talking to coaches, being around coaches. All of them, they talk about a lot of different things about the game than the players do. A lot of different things.
Yeah. And, one of the things I would say too is start out, and you kind of said it too, start out kind of on the lower rungs, like maybe be an assistant coach or work on, maybe
freshman team or something.
Or whatever you can get, a youth league team or whatever, and kind of start working there. Also, I think and this goes for learning anything, you have to take a very logical approach and verify everything with yourself, and take any advice or anything like that from other people as a grain of salt. If you take everything that somebody says to you as, gospel or whatever, then you can kind of get stuck in one space. But I think that if you approach a game and you evaluate whatever everybody says, and you can validate things, and then you can start building your own kind of philosophy and everything like that. And I think that's really important. And that's how you get coaches like Phil Jackson or Popovich or whoever, that they aren't just carbon copies of somebody else's opinions. Like, they have actually thought things out, and they verify it through their own actions and everything.
Well, one of the things that is a common thing around all coaching and all sports is the fact that coaches trade information all the time. You watch this guy and you learn from him. You watch this guy over here, it's a little different, and you learn from him. And that's how you build your background of information about any game, not just basketball, but any game.
Okay, here's one from Willie Will again on Twitter, at King Will 14. He says, "I'm not the best motivator. Coach, what do you say in a locker room before and during games to keep guys positive?"
Well, I think probably one of the most important things in pregame is just kind of explaining what the game plan is and the things that you want to emphasize. For example, let's say that they have a couple of really good shooters, and you'll want to emphasize, okay, when they get the ball, we want to make sure that we get up into them and make them not able to get that shot off quickly. And so you probably take and pick maybe 4 or 5 things that you want to really focus on with your team. And remembering this, that they're not going to remember everything that you say. So get the high points and kind of illustrate those for everybody, so that if they've got Joe Blow over here who's on the side and he's a sub, that he will be aware of the same situation if he goes in to substitute for somebody who plays on a more regular basis. And I think that not overloading too much in the pregame is really important. And I'm not big on rah-rah stuff either, where you go in and you're banging the wall and kicking the trash can and trying to incite your players to play harder and all that. I never have been that way. And one of the things that I kind of look at is that if you do that in the locker room, the players kind of get excited. They're ready to go. They go out on the floor and they play like crazy people for 3 minutes, and then they get to a point of what we call adrenaline fatigue. And adrenaline fatigue is that period after your adrenaline level has surged, and then your whole body goes through a period of kind of slowing down, breaking down because of the effects of adrenaline. And so I really like the idea of being very even keeled. All right, this is what we have to do. And even during the game, we take a timeout. One of the things you want to do on timeout is make sure that everybody is focused on you as the coach and what you're saying. Oftentimes, and I've seen this, I have a funny story, but I'm not going to relate it today, about one of my teams. They're looking over my shoulder at.
Well, you brought it up. Now you got to say it.
I'll get it one day, but not today. But one of the things that happened, I found out they're looking over my shoulder at the crowd, and they're having a drink of water, and they're wiping their face, and they're not really paying very much attention to what you're saying. Once again, I don't think you try to say too much. And for me, I've worked with a coach for a long time. He likes to have a board there, and he's drawing all these things all over the court. And I'm almost certain that most of the players don't have any idea what the heck he's saying. Okay, and so one of the things that are important, make sure everybody's focused on you. And I would take and have them come in for timeouts, and they have their back to the crowd. They are not looking at the crowd across the gym, if you can do that. And then you get them around you and you say, okay, these are the 2 or 3 things that we need to work on right here. Okay. And make sure they understand them. Okay.
I would say you got to prepare your guys beforehand. And I think that if you believe in them and they know that you believe in them, they're going to probably do really well. And it's not about shaming the players or making them feel bad. And if you can show them that you have confidence in them, I think that's probably the best thing that you can do. Yeah, I'm not one of those people that's like, you see in those football movies and stuff where they're beating each other in the chest before the game. And I don't think that really, I think it's better to kind of have a slow build when you're trying to kind of get prepared and amped for the game. And when you get out on the floor, you got to let things kind of happen as they will. And you should be prepared is really the thing. Yep. And, when you're talking about during games, I think, you keep reminding them that the next possession is a completely new possession, and you can always turn things around. Okay.
Don't be too complicated. That's really important.
Yeah. Let's see. This one is from Inner G5, who says, my jump shot is really bad. Do you guys have any tips on how to start from scratch again and develop a better jump shot? Thanks. I'm a big fan of the show. P.S. Did you guys hear about Kevin Durant's injury today? We just heard about it right before we started.
Yeah, that's true.
Hopefully that isn't too serious, but back to your question.
All right. Here's the thing that I would recommend for you here. You're talking about starting from scratch. If you're not satisfied with your stroke, that's exactly what I would do. And what I would do is go to our playlist on shooting, and it will take you step by step over how to create that shot so it's going to be effective for you. Now, understand that it's not going to happen for you in 2 days. It will take you a number of weeks before you really get it to the point where it's going to be kind of effective.
Well, you'll get it working for you in the first couple of days, but
it's not a game situation.
I know, but that's what I'm saying is that you'll get the mechanics and stuff down in the first couple of days.
Yeah.
But then you need to reinforce that over the next few weeks.
Well, what you need to do is in this practice session, and one of the things that we really try to make sure everybody does is use the form shooting drill. And you can find that on our channel as well, on our Shot Science channel. And what you're trying to do there is establish these new patterns for your stroke, new mechanics for your stroke, so that they become a matter of muscle memory. As a part of that whole sequence, you have to take and break down all of the older muscle memory that you have from that is not being very successful. And as you begin to do that, you're going to find that the shot will start to emerge, and it will become fairly successful for you in a matter of 2 to 3 weeks. It doesn't happen any faster than that. Now, when I say effective, I'm talking about where you could step into a game and execute that shot. After the first lesson, it's not going to happen. After the second lesson, it's not going to happen. After the third lesson, if you've spent a lot of time developing the mechanics, you may start to see the beginnings of it.
But you have to put in the consistent work.
Yep.
The other thing is too, is I would say go to our videos, look at all the aspects of fundamental shooting where we talk about, the footwork, the set point, the release, all those super important things. Build off of that stuff. And the way that you do that is using something like the form shooting drill, which we have a video on as well. And it's really just taking the diligent, slowed breakdown of developing those skills. Because if you're trying to just put everything together and make it go for you in one fluid, snap of the fingers, that's not going to happen. You have to really break everything down, and it's cool to do it as slow as possible. Work on each element first and then start to put it all together. You just want to make sure that when you're doing it, you're not, or that you are actually eliminating all of the unnecessary stuff. So if you have a hitch, or you have the ball moving up and down, or you have any movement that isn't necessary, that you eliminate it. Because what happens when you eliminate all that stuff and you have a streamlined, efficient shot, you up your repeatability on that, because it's less complex and you can repeat it every single time. And the more repeatable your shot is, the more accurate you're going to be. And accuracy is buckets, is what it is. So exactly. That's what it's all about. If you're adding in all these extra elements to your mechanics, then you're going to find that it's going to be harder and less repeatable, and your accuracy is going to suffer. Okay. This one is from Tomo in the chat, who says, "Hey, Coach, I am left-handed, but I shoot with my right hand. I don't know why. I am stupid. How can I fix it?"
Hey, you're not stupid. You're not stupid at all. And it's fairly common for people to be dominant one hand and do something else with the left hand or the opposite hand. So I wouldn't worry about it. If you find that you're fairly effective with your right hand, don't bother changing it. I
say shoot, figure out which hand is what you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, and then go with that one, and don't worry about all of that. I mean, I think too much time is spent worrying about whether I shoot with this hand or that hand, or I dribble with this hand or that hand.
Yeah, a lot of people think that that the right hand or shooting the left hand is there's some difference or something like that. It is the exact same mirror image. Yeah. So if you're just trying to figure out how to shoot right-handed layups or left-handed layups, they are actually the exact same.
Yeah.
You just flip everything to the other side. So if you take off on your right foot when you're doing a left-handed layup, you take off on your left foot when you do a right-handed layup. I mean, it's seriously that simple. There is no trick to learning how to do anything with the opposite side. And when people are trying to figure out what is their dominant side, I mean, where does the ball naturally go when you pull it up into your shot? Does it go to your right? Does it go to your left? I think that you find whatever is the most comfortable, go with that and develop off of that.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're getting close to lightning round, but we're not there yet. Okay, this one says, hey, or this was from Mr. Toxicora, who says, hey, coach, anytime I play basketball and a fast break starts, I always sort of slow my speed down because I'm afraid of getting the ball and missing a wide open layup. Any advice on how to keep my nerves to a minimum? Oh, that's like the perfect situation. That's like free points.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is make sure that you've been in that situation before, get the experience, work on fast breaks when you're in practice, right?
Well, work on your finishing on the fast breaks. I mean, that's the thing that really has you concerned, is you're afraid you're going to miss that layup.
I mean, when you get an opportunity like this, your eyes should get this big and you should just be thinking, oh, this is a freebie.
Yeah, and just work on those layups, right and left hand, at high speed. And, you know, when you shoot those layups, one of the things that I just think is really important on the fast break, always shoot them underhanded. Oftentimes what we do is we go up to shoot it and we've got our hand behind the basketball and we transfer a lot of our run-up speed to the back of the ball. It hits the backboard so hard, it ricochets back out to the free throw line. Whereas if you shoot them underhanded and let them just kind of roll off your fingers, you're going to find that they're going to be very soft and cushy. But boy, like Casey said, that's something you should be looking to go for, and just run your legs off to get the ball and then get that nice finish.
Yeah.
Just practice on it beforehand.
Focus on the finish.
Focus on the finish.
Put the ball right in the sweet spot on the backboard and you're good to go. I mean, that's oof.
Yeah.
Okay, this one is from, okay, let's lightning round this because we've got 10 minutes left. If you guys really want to get your questions answered, send them to us on Twitter and we will try to get to all of them if we can. We got a lot here in the chat, but here we go. Lightning round, short questions or short answers to these questions. Okay, this one is for DWalker771, who says, have you got any good ways to make more offensive options as a team against zone and man-to-man? Oh, that's going to be a great lightning round question.
That's a whole book right there.
Good ways to make offensive options as a team. I think the key to all of what you just said is really movement without the basketball, and spacing. You know, if you are constantly moving and creating opportunities, whether you have the ball or not, you will be generating looks to the basket,
whether it's man or zone, either one.
Yeah, and so, you know, setting ball screens, setting off screens, doing V cuts, L cuts, back cuts,
flashing
the middle, you know, attacking the gaps, drive, draw, dish, all of those things. You got to just make sure that you're making it tough for the defense. If you're just standing there, whatever. Okay, this one is from Edvis Clutch, who says, hey coach, talking about shooting, I have a problem with my mechanics. I feel I'm shooting more from the shoulder than from the legs and wrist. Any tips?
Well, yeah, you know, stop and think about this, that most of the power for shooting really comes from the core muscles of your body and the legs, and those are the largest muscles in our body. And so we need to learn how to use them for our shooting. We like to tell people that we probably are using about 15 to 20% of our muscles power coming from our upper body. The other 80% of it is coming from our lower body. You need to learn how to connect that to the shot so you have that power.
Yeah. And I would say that you need to make sure that you have everything flowing smoothly from start to finish.
Right.
You're not trying to do anything with your wrist or anything upper body, because the upper body is the finesse part of the shot.
The guiding.
Yeah.
The guidance system.
So no hitch.
Yeah.
You just want to make sure everything flows. If you watch Steph Curry, I mean, he's a perfect example of that. Yeah. Everything flows from the floor up. Okay. This one is from Deucelin, who says, hi, I'm sorry for my English. I'm sorry for butchering your name. They say, I've been playing basketball on street courts. One of 1-on-1 up to 3-on-3 for about 15 years. I have decent shooting. I'm working on my dribbling. I plan on playing for a team as a 2 or 3 in about a year. I am 9.3 feet tall. Oh, that doesn't make sense. 187 pounds. Is there a part of my game you'd advise me to develop to be of help as soon as I can for my team? Dual name from France. I would say what we always say to people when they ask us about their height, positions, position play, and all that. Don't worry about that stuff. Make yourself an all-around valuable player that can do a little bit of everything and is good at all that stuff. Yeah. If you focus too much on being a 2-guard, then what if you wind up trying to be on a team with an overabundance of 2 guards? Then you've kind of lost the opportunity. But what if you can step over the 3, or you can step over and play the point guard? You're going to find yourself being much more versatile, and the coaches like that too. They like players that can kind of slip into different positions. So what we would say is work on everything. Work on your shooting, work on your dribbling, work on different game scenarios, work on defense, all of that stuff, and you will be in much better shape. Right. That would be our advice. It's pretty vague, but I mean, that's really the thing, is work on everything. Let's see. This one is for I don't know what he's asking. This one is for Chris Bulls. Sorry for the bad English. Everybody, your English is fine. This one is, he says, I have very small hands for my size. How can I improve my grip strength for palming the ball? When I go for a dunk, I sometimes miss it because I lose control of the ball. Usually I squeeze the ball between my hand and my forearm, where I go for a 2-handed dunk. But since I'm coming back from injury, I can't get high enough for that yet. People put so much emphasis on palming the ball. It is really not that important at all.
No.
There's like, seriously, I've been able to palm a ball since I was like 11 or 12 years old. There's almost no situation where I can even think where you would even have to palm a ball. And people talk about dunking and all that, but I can go up for a layup. I don't need to palm it at all. The ball kind of stays in my hand no matter where. I'm not even palming it. And if you are trying to go up for dunks and stuff like that, and they aren't going down, then don't take the dunks.
Yeah, don't do that.
Maybe you need to work more on developing your vertical and get higher up or something. But too much emphasis on grip and palming and all that,
and dunking. Yeah,
work more on your ball control. Really pounding the ball into the floor and getting that kind of stuff going. That's so much more important. Palming is literally one of the last things that you should worry about. Yeah. Let's see. This one is from Kim May in the chat, who says, from a psychological point of view, how hard do you need to be on your teammates when they make mistakes during a game or even in practice? I think you can be too harsh on yourself looking at your own mistakes, as you can't move on to what's happening next, but you also need to learn from them. Where do you draw the line when calling teammates out when they're making simple mistakes in a manner so that you're not causing tension between each other and still working to try and get better?
This is a really common situation.
Lightning round too.
Yeah, on most basketball teams, and probably most teams in general. You can get away with being critical of your teammates if you are just as ready to praise them for things that they do that are really good. Oftentimes what happens is those people who get really kind of uptight and are carping against their teammates because they're not getting something done, they tend to develop more of an anger for you because you're being very critical. Whereas if you are very even-minded about this, oh, great pass, boy, that was a nice steal, and you're patting them on the back at the same time they're saying, would you please get yourself in position on defense? Come on. When you can talk with them and take both sides of that, you can praise them and you can chip away at them a little bit. Praise them, chip them away. Most people respond to that positively. But when you're carping on them all the time and you're not really giving them any space at all, they get a little pissed over that and they don't want to hear it. And so if you can be very even-handed about that, you'll find that it works a lot better.
Yeah. And, I think that also just, it's telling people, we can do better. That's I mean, you don't need to get on somebody's case and just break them down mentally. I mean, that's the worst thing you can do. But if you are showing positive encouragement and support, people are typically going to work harder for you than if you turn into the jerk if you're that guy that's just always on people's case. I mean, that's not what you want to.
Yeah, and I think if you can temper that with compliments, even if sometimes they're kind of not really not really true maybe, but still, hey, boy, you're really playing well on that guy on defense. Keep it up, keep it up. And then you can feel okay about maybe chipping at him about something he's not getting done.
Yeah. Okay. This one's from Gareth Worrell, who says, what is better for your jump shot, hopping in or the 1-2? We are 1-2 proponents. We think it's the best way to it should be your go-to. Yeah. And the reason why is because it's faster, it's quicker, it's more balanced, and it's more explosive.
And you can create some nice rhythm.
And it generates rhythm. You don't need to do anything else to generate rhythm. And the other great thing about that is that it happens before you even pull the ball up to go into the shot or pull it up from the dribble. So it's happening before you catch or before you pull up from the dribble. Yeah. And what happens then is that it makes your shot faster and it's more explosive. If you're hopping in, no matter how small or whatever it is, you're essentially going from high to low to high. That takes time. It's extra movement. You don't need it. When you're stepping in 1-2, you're down. You're already coming into the shot. So you're low, going to high. It's just so much more efficient. And we use the high speed camera and we've looked at this stuff. It actually happens much faster when you're doing the 1-2 step in. I think some people think that you catch the ball and then you take a step and then you step again into that is not the 1-2. The 1-2 is happening before you catch it, and it seriously is 1-2. 1-2. And if you watch our videos, you can see it. It is lightning fast. It is not a slow thing at all.
Well, there's another comment here that isn't really spoken about very much. When you hop into a shot, if that shot is no longer there, then what? You have nothing else you can do except give the ball up. However, if you're using a 1-2 footwork, you can actually counter out of that with another dribble to get yourself into a different location if you're challenged. So that's another reason we like it, is that when you go into a 1-2, you can still counter.
Yeah, and there's going to be situations where you're going to have to hop into a shot.
Yeah, sometimes it happens.
But that happens. It should just not be your go-to. It should be something that happens in special situations. Right. Okay, let's see. We got 2 more questions here real quick. Let's see. Gotta find some good ones. This one is from the Ancient Gods 23, who says, "Hey coach, I'm trying to learn to flick my wrist, but I'm having a hard time. Do you have any tips?"
Yes. It's really funny that's not easy to do. And we usually tell our students when they begin lessons on shooting mechanics that it's probably going to take you about 3 weeks.
Hold on. I would like to first say that flicking is not anything that happens.
No, it's not flicking. It's just a relaxation of the wrist.
Flop.
We call it the flop, and it's just a relaxation of the wrist and fingers. And the reason we like it is because it slows the rotation on the basketball. And the ball hits the rim, and it's not nearly as live. Really, very, very important.
Yeah, I think you just really need to work on making sure that the flop is falling right over the wrist, and it's a flop like that. Flicking implies tension, and tension will kill your shots.
Yeah, make it spin faster.
Too much potential energy. Okay. Oh man, we got to find one good one at the end here. Let's see. Let's see. Well, there's a couple people asking about situations on, like how to get good shooting and stuff like that. Here's our thoughts on developing any skill. We're going to finish it off with the 3 pillars of practice. And this will hopefully answer a bunch of people's questions because I see a lot of them repeating. The 3 pillars of practice can be applied to shooting, dribbling, defense, whatever it is. You have to have a balance of all this stuff. And the 3 pillars are, number 1, a diligent, broken down, slowed down mechanic work on whatever you're working on. So that if that's shooting, you're breaking down everything. You're working on the footwork. You're working on getting the ball to the set point. You're working on catch and turn and all that stuff. And you are doing it in a way that it's just your time. You're just working on it yourself, and you're slowing everything down. You're getting everything dialed in. So that would be something like the form shooting drill, where you're spending a lot of time getting a lot of repetitions. The next pillar is game speed, game intensity practice. So in terms of shooting, you're taking what you learned in the form shooting drill and you're actually doing some stuff off the catch, off the dribble. You're maybe doing some spin dribbles or some spin shooting stuff. You're adding in a defender. You're just doing everything at game speed and game intensity. And you're getting yourself prepared for actually stepping out on the court and having to use those skills that you worked on in the first pillar. Then pillar 3 is actual game experience. So you take all that you worked on the first pillar and the second pillar, and you actually go out and you play pickup games or school games or whatever kind of actual game experience you can get to get as much experience doing that stuff as you possibly can. And that's really how you develop anything in terms of basketball and probably other sports too, but definitely for basketball. Yeah. Okay, so that's going to do it for us today, you guys. If we missed your question, it's not because we didn't like you, it's because we ran out of time. And if you want to send us your questions during the week, you can find us on Facebook, Google+, Twitter, and on YouTube. Subscribe to us there. And, we will be back next week, Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific time, to have another live show. So if you have your question for us then, we'll try to get to those there. And please go out and tell your friends and family to check out the Shot Science stuff. We really appreciate it. And we will see you guys next week.
All right. Thanks for being with us, guys.
See ya.